The stars stretched across the night like endless diamonds, silent and cold, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. Humanity had spread its reach far beyond Earth, planting colonies on distant planets and moons. Verdant 9 was a jewel among them. Lush forests, clear rivers, and cities that gleamed under two suns. Life had grown quiet, comfortable, almost too perfect. People went about their days. Children ran through open fields and the air hummed with hope. Humans believed the stars were theirs to explore, theirs to care for, but no one could have imagined the shadow that waited in the darkness. It began without warning. The first reports came in as strange signals, flickering across the colony communications network. Then a roar louder than any storm shook Verdant 9. From orbit, massive Garrick warships descended, black and insect-like, their hulls bristling with weapons that could tear through steel as if it were paper. The sky turned red with fire. Cities that had stood for decades burned in minutes. Smoke rose like dark towers, and the rivers boiled under strange alien heat. People screamed. Mothers clutched their children, and fathers ran desperately through streets that melted beneath their feet. In the span of an hour, the colonies humanity had nurtured for centuries became ruins. On Earth, the first transmissions reached the leaders and citizens in a haze of disbelief. News feeds carried images of devastation. Towering buildings collapsing, forests reduced to ash, oceans blackened with toxic fire. Every screen showed the faces of humans staring into the void, eyes wide with fear and confusion. Some were too young to understand, some too old to survive, and some clutched the hands of loved ones praying that the nightmare would end. But it never did. Admiral Elias Rourke, commander of Earth's Starfleet, sat rigid in the command center, eyes fixed on the live feed. Every explosion, every scream, every moment of horror etched itself into his memory. He had trained for battle, for conflict, for war, but never for this. Not for a sudden, merciless strike that destroyed colonies without warning or reason. "They think they can break us with fire," he whispered, voice tight. "They don't know what humanity can do when it fights back." Governments called emergency councils. Debates raged across Earth about negotiation, surrender, or retaliation. But among the people a deeper voice stirred, a voice of pain, loss, and determination. Humanity had been humiliated, wounded, but it had not been defeated. Every parent who had lost a child, every survivor who had watched their home burn felt a fire growing inside them. The Galactic had made a grave mistake. They had awakened a fury that had been hidden for centuries. In the ruined streets of Verdant 9, small groups of survivors banded together. Farmers, engineers, scientists, and children alike moved through the debris, helping one another, sharing food, water, and hope. Despite the overwhelming destruction, the human spirit refused to die. Every act of kindness, every hand extended to help someone out of the rubble, was a quiet rebellion against the terror raining down from above and far away. In the depths of space, Admiral Rourke began mobilizing Earth's hidden fleet. Ships that had lain in waiting, cloaked and silent, were now coming alive with engines roaring and weapons primed. Humanity had trained for this moment, though no one had known it would come so suddenly, with such devastating force. A single thought ran through the minds of every human watching the horrors from afar. We will not be destroyed. Not now, not ever. The colonies were gone. The fires burned bright, painting the skies with anger. But Earth and humanity had a secret strength, a hidden fury that no alien could measure. And slowly, quietly, it began to stir. The war for survival had begun, and humanity would not go quietly into the night. While the fires consumed the colonies, Earth was far from helpless. For decades, humanity had prepared in silence, building a hidden arsenal that no alien had ever dreamed existed. Deep beneath the planet's surface, massive shipyards carved from mountains hummed with activity. Experimental starships, sleek and powerful, waited silently in their hangars. Weapons of unimaginable power, plasma lances, gravity torpedoes, and quantum displacers, were being loaded and calibrated. Scientists and engineers moved with purpose, their faces set with determination. Humanity had trained for war, not for conquest, but for survival. And now, survival demanded action. Admiral Elias Rourke walked the command deck of the flagship Resolute, a ship the size of a small city. Its hull reflected the lights of Earth's orbit, shields glowing faintly as if the planet itself was lending its energy to the fleet. Rourke's voice carried over the comms, calm but heavy with resolve. The Garrick think they have broken us. They think we are weak, that we will kneel before their fire. They are wrong. Today humanity will fight. Today they will see what we are capable of. Around him, officers nodded. Engineers checked systems, calibrating weapons that could annihilate entire fleets with precision. Pilots ran simulations over holographic displays, preparing to execute maneuvers that would outsmart any enemy formation. Every human on board knew the stakes. The Garrick had destroyed colonies, killed friends and family, and left the galaxy believing humans were fragile. But fragile humans survive, adapt, and sometimes, when cornered, they strike harder than anything else in the stars. Earth itself became a fortress. Underground bunkers, shielded cities, and orbital defense platforms activated in coordination with the fleet. The Nova Array, a system capable of channeling the sun's energy into focused beams of destruction, came online. It had never been tested in battle, but necessity demanded boldness. Humanity would not just defend itself, they would make the Garrick understand that their aggression had awakened something ancient and unstoppable. Meanwhile, communications went out to every surviving colony. Even those hiding in the rubble received instructions: gather, survive, and aid the fleet wherever possible. Humanity was a web of strength. Every individual, from a farmer on a distant moon to a scientist in Earth's orbit, played a role. The people had been scattered, but they were not broken. The loss of Verdant 9 Helios Prime and other colonies had sparked a fire, a collective anger that connected every human heart across the void. Rourke met with his top tacticians, planning a strike that would shock the Garrick. It would not be a simple assault. It would be surgical, precise, and devastating. Humans could not match the aliens in sheer numbers, but they had ingenuity, resilience, and a refusal to surrender. Every maneuver, every strategy relied on adaptability, the human ability to think faster, fight smarter, and endure longer. On board the Resolute, Lieutenant Mara Kestrel checked her fighter squadron. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Each pilot would carry the hopes of millions, striking at supply lines and weak points. "We are the spark," she whispered. "The Garrick will remember what it means to face humanity." In space, the fleet began its silent movement. Cloaked and hidden within nebulae, human ships positioned themselves near key enemy routes. For the first time, the Garrick would face not just resistance, but a counterattack designed to show them that humanity could not be crushed, enslaved, or ignored. The human race had endured fire, famine, and countless wars on their home world. They had survived against impossible odds, evolving and adapting. Now, in the face of alien annihilation, that experience became a weapon. Humanity's hidden arsenal was more than just ships and weapons. It was hope, it was courage. It was the unbreakable will to protect every life that had been taken. As the fleet readied for the first strike, Rourke looked at Earth from orbit. The planet below seemed small and fragile against the stars. Yet in that fragility lay power. Humanity would rise from the ashes of their colonies, not broken, but stronger. Their fury was ready, and it would burn across the galaxy with the force of a supernova. The first battle was coming, and with it the beginning of humanity's reckoning. The Garrick had believed themselves untouchable. Their ships moved in perfect formations, their weapons blazing destruction across the colonies. But they had underestimated humanity's patience, intelligence, and hidden fury. Now the humans were ready. In the shadow of a dark nebula, Earth's fleet gathered. Ships of all sizes, fighters, frigates, and massive battlecruisers, glimmered faintly under the faint light of distant stars. The humans were smaller in number, but they had something the Garrick did not: strategy, courage, and an unbreakable resolve. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes scanning the star maps. Every course plotted, every strike planned, would be executed with precision. "Targets locked," Lieutenant Mara Kestrel reported, her voice steady despite the tension. She had seen the horrors of Verdant 9, Helios Prime, and the other colonies. Every loss had etched a fire into her soul. "Shall we show them what humanity can do?" Rourke's eyes burned with determination. "Yes, for our people. For every life they tried to erase." The fleet surged forward, slipping through the nebulous shadows. The first targets were supply lines, the lifeblood of the Garrick war machine. Human fighters darted between asteroid fields, striking swiftly and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Explosions blossomed like deadly fireworks as fuel cores ignited, and command vessels shuddered under precise plasma strikes. In the chaos, Mara piloted her fighter through the debris of a shattered Garrick ship. Flames licked the edges of her cockpit, and alarms screamed through. Yet her hands were steady. Every movement was calculated, every strike deliberate. She remembered the faces of the children who had died in Verdant 9, and she let their memory guide her. Humanity was not just fighting for victory. They were fighting for justice for every life the aliens had tried to steal. Below, in the ruined colonies, survivors watched the transmissions in awe. The humans were striking back, turning the tables on an enemy that had seemed invincible. Mothers clutched their children tighter, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time since the attacks. Engineers and soldiers on other planets prepared their own defenses, inspired by the courage they saw above. Humanity's fight had become a rallying cry, a symbol that they would not surrender. Even as the humans gained ground, the Garrick adapted. Swarms of alien fighters poured out from hidden hangars, attempting to encircle the fleet. But humans were not easily trapped. Coordinated maneuvers, sudden changes in formation, and daring solo missions by fighter pilots disrupted the alien plans. Every time the Garrick struck, humanity responded with creativity and relentless courage. Mara watched as a massive Garrick cruiser loomed ahead, its hull bristling with weapons. She signaled her squadron, "Focus fire on the engines. Disable it and the fleet will crumble." With synchronized precision, plasma beams lanced through the enemy's shields, puncturing engines and igniting fuel lines. The cruiser exploded in a cascade of fire, its fragments scattering across the void like deadly meteors. In that moment, Mara felt something shift inside her. The humans had been pushed to the brink, yet here they were, turning despair into strength. Every victory was not just tactical, it was emotional. It was proof that humanity could endure, adapt, and fight back harder than any enemy could imagine. Admiral Rourke's voice came over the comms, calm yet fierce. "We fight for our colonies. We fight for our people. We fight for humanity itself. Let them know they cannot crush us." As the fleet continued its assault, streaks of fire and explosions painted the dark canvas of space. The humans had begun their reckoning. The Garrick were powerful, yes, but humanity had something greater: the will to survive, the courage to fight, and the fury of a species that would not be extinguished. The first strike was only the beginning. Humanity had tasted the thrill of retaliation, the satisfaction of standing tall against impossible odds. And in the hearts of every soldier, pilot, and survivor, one thought burned brighter than any explosion. This is only the start. We will rise. We will fight. We will reclaim what is ours. The Garrick were not a race to be easily humiliated. Their pride was as sharp as their claws, and their fury burned hotter than any plasma cannon. They had underestimated humanity's courage, and now they would unleash their full wrath. From the far reaches of the Draven expanse, massive fleets appeared in Earth's orbit. Ships blackened the stars, and their weapons shimmered with deadly intent. This time, they were coming for the planet itself. Down on Earth, cities braced for impact. Early warning sirens screamed through the night as citizens fled into shelters. Families huddled together, holding hands as buildings shook under distant blasts. Streets were empty, illuminated only by the red glow of warning lights and the occasional fire from debris above. Yet, despite the fear, there was determination in every heart. Humans had survived famine, war, and disaster. Now they would endure the wrath of the Garrick. High above the planet, Admiral Rourke monitored the alien approach. The fleet's numbers were staggering, dwarfing Earth's defenses, yet he remained calm. Years of preparation, secrecy, and relentless planning had led to this moment. He activated the planetary defense systems and the Nova Array, a colossal weapon capable of channeling the sun's energy into beams of pure destruction. It had never been used on living targets, but humanity had no choice. The Garrick had forced their hand. Targeting enemy formations, Rourke commanded. Focus on their lead cruisers. Disable their coordination and slow their advance. Humanity stands together, this is our home. The first beams of solar energy cut through the void, striking Garrick ships with searing precision. Explosions rippled across their lines, burning through metal and igniting fuel cores. The aliens, taken by surprise, faltered but quickly adapted. Their retaliatory fire rained down on Earth's orbital platforms. Satellites shattered, Defense turrets erupted in flames and shockwaves rippled across the atmosphere. Humanity's cities trembled under the assault. On the ground, ordinary humans became warriors. Emergency brigades manned anti-air cannons. Engineers repaired damaged defenses under fire, and civilians transported supplies to shelters. Children were moved to underground bunkers, guided by volunteers who refused to leave anyone behind. Mothers whispered prayers, fathers shouted encouragement, and every survivor understood that the battle for Earth was also a battle for hope. Amid the chaos, Lieutenant Mara Kestrel guided her squadron through the orbiting war zone. Fighters dodged fire from alien cruisers, weaving through debris and explosions. Her heart pounded, not from fear but from the weight of responsibility. Each maneuver, each strike saved lives. The humans were small, yet their determination and coordination made them deadly. Despite the Garruk's overwhelming numbers, Earth's defenses held firm. Nova Array beams tore through the alien fleet, reducing massive ships to molten wrecks. Orbital cannons fired relentlessly, and fighter squadrons intercepted bombers before they could strike cities. The humans were fighting not just with weapons, but with courage, strategy, and unity. Every act of defense, every life saved, became a testament to humanity's resilience. Above the chaos, Rourke's voice rang out over comms, steady and commanding. "Hold the line. Every life matters. The Galactic will not break our spirit. This planet, our home, is protected by every human heart and every hand that refuses to surrender." Even as explosions rocked the skies, Earth's people fought back. Resistance was everywhere, on the ground, in orbit, and across communications. Humanity was more than technology. It was hope, courage, and the unshakable will to survive. By the time the first wave of Galactic attacks began to wane, their fleet had suffered heavy losses. Ships that had once seemed invincible now floated as lifeless husks in orbit. Humans had held their ground. Earth had survived the onslaught. And though the battle was far from over, one thing was clear. The Galactic had learned a painful truth. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would not flee. Humanity would fight. And in that knowledge, every human heart on Earth felt a fierce pride and a burning determination. The Galactic may have struck first, but humanity's fury had been awakened, and it would not rest until every colony, every life, and every star touched by human hands was safe once more. The battlefield had shifted. Humanity, battered but unbroken, now took the fight to the Galactic. The aliens had thought their attacks would cripple the humans, but they had underestimated one simple truth. Humanity never surrendered. Each ship that had been built, each strategy that had been planned, was now being executed with precision and courage. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching as the human fleet surged forward into enemy territory. The Galactic had spread their forces across the Draven expanse, expecting to hunt and destroy. But the humans had learned their patterns, studied every maneuver, and identified weaknesses. Now they struck not as desperate defenders, but as a calculated force. "Set coordinates for the main Galactic supply lines," Rourke ordered, his voice calm but sharp. "Hit them fast, hit them hard, and leave no room for retreat. Every strike counts. Every victory matters." Lieutenant Mara Kestrel's squadron led the assault. Her heart raced as they dove into the swarm of alien ships weaving between plasma beams and debris. Each human fighter was smaller and more fragile than the massive Galactic vessels, but their speed and strategy turned the tide. Mara's squadron targeted supply cores, collapsing fuel tanks and sending explosions rippling through enemy ranks. With every strike, the humans reclaimed not just territory but dignity. In the midst of the battle, Rourke coordinated orbital strikes on Galactic command ships. Precision attacks crippled their leadership vessels, causing chaos and confusion among the alien forces. The Galactic, confident in their overwhelming numbers, were now scrambling to respond. Their formations broke and their morale faltered. On board Mara's fighter, she could see the destruction she had helped cause. Massive ships exploded in fiery bursts, scattering debris like deadly meteors. She felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. Triumph for the victories they had earned, sorrow for the lives lost in the initial attacks. Humanity's fight was not without cost, but it was driven by necessity, by the memory of every colony the aliens had destroyed. Meanwhile, human engineers in support vessels patched shields, rerouted power, and guided new attacks. The coordination of humans, from the pilots to the strategists, was flawless. Every action amplified the next, creating a chain reaction of victories. The Garric's superiority in numbers could not match the humans' determination and ingenuity. The humans pressed deeper into enemy territory. Mara's squadron discovered a cluster of Garric warships attempting to regroup. She signaled her team, "Target the engines. Disable them before they can escape. Let them know we do not forget, and we do not forgive." The attack was devastating. Explosions lit the void, and the once formidable Garric cruisers became drifting SKS. The humans had learned that victory was not about destroying everything. It was about striking with purpose, focusing on weaknesses, and keeping their resolve intact. Every success was a tribute to the colonies that had fallen, and a promise that humanity would reclaim what was theirs. Admiral Rourke allowed himself a brief moment of pride. His fleet, smaller in number, had inflicted damage that would resonate across the Garric Empire. Humanity had not just survived the first attacks, they had adapted, learned, and struck back with precision and fury. Yet the battle was far from over. The Garric still had power, still had weapons, still had fleets waiting in the shadows. But for the first time, humanity had proven something undeniable. They could fight back and they could win. Every pilot, every engineer, every citizen watching the battle unfold felt hope bloom in their hearts. Humanity's hidden fury was no longer a secret. Mara Kestrel looked out at the stars, streaked with fire and debris, and whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. We will not stop until every colony is safe, and every Garric ship knows the cost of attacking humanity." Across the galaxy, humans and survivors alike realized that the tide had turned. Humanity was no longer on the defensive. The fight was theirs to lead, and the stars themselves seemed to glow with the promise of vengeance and justice. For the first time since the Garric's attacks, humans felt the sweet surge of hope and determination. They had survived. They had adapted, and now they were turning the tide. The Garric stronghold loomed ahead, a fortress of steel and fire suspended like a shadow in the void. Humanity's fleet approached cautiously, every ship alert, every crew ready. The journey to this point had been long and costly. Countless lives had been lost defending colonies, countless families had mourned. Yet despite the pain and loss, humans had endured, learned, and adapted. Now they carried their fury to the heart of the enemy. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, gazing at the fortress. His hands gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white. "This is it," he said quietly. "The Garric believe they are untouchable. They have terrorized our people and thought humanity would cower. They are about to learn how wrong they are." Lieutenant Mara Kestrel checked her fighter squadron, their faces tense but determined. She remembered Verdant 9, Helios Prime, and the families lost on distant colonies. Every explosion, every scream had forged a fire within her. "We fight for them," she whispered. "We fight for every human who cannot be here. We fight for humanity itself." The fleet surged forward. Human ships moved with precision, striking weak points in the fortress's defense grid. Plasma lances tore through shields, and gravity torpedoes disabled massive weapon systems. The Garric responded with ferocity, unleashing swarms of fighters and firestorms that lit up the darkness of space. Explosions shook the fleet, but the humans pressed on. Mara's squadron led a daring assault, weaving through enemy fire to target the engines of the flagship, the Hive Tyrant. Each pilot moved with perfect synchronization, their maneuvers honed through months of battle. Every strike carried the memory of lost colonies and fallen comrades, every blast a message. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. On board the Resolute, Rourke coordinated the final attack. "Focus all firepower on the Hive Tyrant," he commanded. "Nova Array, charge full output. This ends now." The planet below, Earth, seemed to pulse with the energy of anticipation. Humanity's hope, grief, and fury converged into a single force, channeled through the fleet. The Nova Array unleashed beams of pure solar energy, cutting through the fortress's shields. The Hive Tyrant groaned as its armor fractured, systems failing one by one. Mara led her boarding team through the chaos, fighting alien warriors with determination born of desperation and justice. Every corridor was a battleground, every strike a testament to human resilience. As the flagship faltered, explosions lit the darkness like fireworks. Humans pushed deeper, striking at the heart of the Garric command. Each victory, each fallen enemy, brought them closer to the final moment of reckoning. The Hive Tyrant could no longer coordinate its fleet. Confusion spread among the Garrick lines and their overwhelming numbers began to crumble. Mara reached the core of the flagship, planting charges that would ensure the vessel's destruction. She paused for a moment, feeling the weight of every life lost, every colony burned. "This is for them," she whispered. Then, with a final decisive action, she activated the charges and escaped. From orbit, the explosion of the Hive Tyrant lit the void like a second sun. Shockwaves rippled through the Garrick fleet, scattering ships and breaking formations. The enemy's morale shattered, and what remained of their forces fled in disarray. Humanity had not just survived, they had triumphed. Admiral Rourke allowed himself a rare moment of relief as he looked at the battlefield. Human ships, battered but standing, hovered among the wreckage. The cost had been great, but the message was clear. Humanity could not be defeated. Humanity had risen from the ashes of destroyed colonies, carrying their pain and their fury across the stars. Mara Kestrel gazed out at the void, tears in her eyes, a mixture of grief and pride swirling in her heart. Humanity had fought back, harder and smarter than any enemy had expected. They had reclaimed their honor, their colonies, and their future. The galaxy would remember this day. Humanity's hidden fury had been unleashed, and no force, alien or otherwise, would ever underestimate the resilience, courage, and determination of the human race. The void was silent for a moment, a heavy silence that followed the roar of battle. The Hive Tyrant, once the heart of the Garrick war machine, had been reduced to a fiery cloud of debris drifting across the stars. The remaining Garrick forces, shattered and demoralized, fled into the dark reaches of space. Humanity had won, but the victory was bittersweet. Every human knew the cost. The colonies destroyed, the families lost, the friends who would never return. Admiral Elias Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring out at the wreckage. The stars were scattered with fire and debris, yet among the chaos a new hope burned brighter than any explosion. Humanity had faced annihilation and had emerged stronger, united and determined. "We have survived," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "We have endured, and we will rise again, stronger than before." Lieutenant Mara Kestrel floated in her fighter above the remnants of the battlefield, gazing at the void. She thought of Verdant 9, Helios Prime, and the other colonies reduced to ashes. But she also thought of the courage she had seen. Pilots fighting against impossible odds, engineers repairing ships under fire, civilians taking up arms to defend their world. Humanity had not just fought, they had become a force of unyielding will, a testament to what it meant to survive and protect. Across the galaxy, survivors from destroyed colonies received transmissions from Earth. Rourke's message was clear: rebuild, endure, and unite. Humanity's strength was not just in its weapons, but in its people, the scientists, soldiers, parents, children, all bound together by hope and fury. Every message carried the same truth: humanity would never be broken. On the battlefront, Mara and her squadron regrouped. Ships were damaged, some lost, but the pilots' spirits soared. They had taken the fight to the enemy, struck at the heart of their power, and survived. Each explosion, each successful strike, had been a tribute to those who had fallen, a promise that their deaths would not be in vain. Humanity's revenge was complete, but more importantly, humanity's courage had been proven beyond doubt. Admiral Rourke convened his officers for the first time since the battle ended. "This war has shown the galaxy who we are," he said. "We are not just survivors. We are warriors, thinkers, and protectors. Our colonies may have fallen, but our spirit cannot be destroyed. We have sent a message to the stars. Humanity will never be underestimated." On Earth, children looked up at the night sky, seeing streaks of debris from distant battles. They did not understand everything that had happened, but they felt the pride and hope carried in every human heart. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. They had shown the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and unity were more powerful than any weapon. In the drifting remnants of the Garrick fleet, alien commanders realized their mistake. Humanity was not just a species to be conquered. Their fury, hidden for centuries, had been unleashed. The survivors carried the memory of destroyed colonies not as shame, but as fire, a fire that fueled their strength, their strategy, and their unbreakable will. Mara looked back at Earth from orbit. The planet seemed small, fragile, yet alive with the energy of billions of hearts united. Humanity had reclaimed its honor. Humanity had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could crush its spirit. And for the first time, the stars seemed to shimmer differently, as if acknowledging the rise of a species that would not be bowed. Admiral Rourke placed his hand on the railing of the Resolute, gazing at the expanse before him. "We will rebuild," he said softly. "We will restore our colonies. We will protect every human life, and if any enemy dares threaten us again, they will feel our fury once more." The galaxy had witnessed a new dawn, the moment when humanity's hidden power, resilience, and courage had been revealed. The fires of destruction had sparked a force no one could ignore. Earth's children, the survivors of colonies.